there was an officer-involved shooting in Louisville. There is an officer-involved shooting in Florence. There's been about 3 shootings that happened in Florence. None of them have come out that have been starkly just absolutely wrong like it was with Samantha Ramsey or Leon Brackens, but that's, until we have all the details, we don't know. If there's only one person and just the official version, we may never get the truth. So that just happened today. There's that, it says that there's 2 injuries in the officer-involved shooting, which was reported in Clifton. So that's, that's going on right now. You should check that out because there's going to be more developments after that. About 2 or 3 days ago, you had Obama that came to Louisville and he gave a speech. He gave a speech right after making the Iran deal. He came here and gave a speech about tech jobs. And he says, actually, Code Louisville is a way for people. There's like 2,000 tech jobs for coders in order to, make some money. And so Code Louisville is anybody who has a library card can get into a code program for free. And you can become a developer. You could start, creating software and helping someone. There's 2,000 jobs is what he said. And so actually I read this article here in Biz Journals where they said that the Learning House Incorporated, a local cloud-based technology learning platform, has joined the city to provide a more advanced training. And then JCTC, Jefferson Community and Technical College, will offer Code Louisville graduates credit equivalency for portfolio work they accomplished through Code Louisville. So now we have more, programs. It's not just Code Louisville, but it's also JCTC, Learning House Incorporated. And, they offer Code Louisville students credit for their work. The Learning House, they actually charge money for it. Costs $10,000 in tuition. But that's it's more time intensive and it's a boot camp, coding boot camp. And that's what Learning House says. So it actually costs money, but these are programs that are joining together. There's even an article that wrote about Eastern Kentucky. That's a way for, poor folks to develop themselves and actually get a decent position in life, in society. And so that's, that's what we're doing, right? We're getting also languages. Learning a new language, I think, is usually a good way for poor people. It's knowledge and it's useful knowledge. Unlike, the education departments, which is only teaches you about how to oppress and put, make sure your will to power conquers everybody else's in the room. If you ever feel like you're being manipulated and that the student doesn't or the teacher doesn't care for you and they just want to manipulate your behavior and your thoughts, you're absolutely right. So, that's news. Right after Obama came and made that speech, there was a baby that was born on the interstate. A lot of people were complaining about it, but every time, Bush and Reagan and whoever comes to Louisville or to Cincinnati, they always shut down all the interstates. So, big shocker, right, that they would do something like that. It is kind of crazy. A baby was born on the interstate. I have a cousin who was born in a Cherokee Jeep, and she was named Cherokee. So, I heard the baby was okay, so that's cool. Also, the General Electric plant started burning. And so there's a big General Electric plant that was in Louisville and was burning everywhere, just getting all of its toxins anywhere and everywhere. A lot of people thanks Obama, right? Obama shows up, makes a speech. You got GE plant burning, the baby's born on the interstate, and then you had all this rain. And it was basically a torrential downpour that just kind of came out of nowhere. And there was a woman that was killed in Lee County. So in Lee County, there was that rain. Maker's Mark, because of the UK sort of pump up, has a Adolf Rupp whiskey. They're making a signature Adolf Rupp sort of whiskey, Maker's Mark. Maker's Mark actually got in trouble in downtown Louisville, 4th Street Live, because of some racist stuff. That there was a black DJ came in and then they, basically harassed him, asked him what is he doing. He's like, hey, I pay, they pay me to be here. And it was Maker's Mark. Yeah, big shocker, right? Big shocker. Louisville's actually, filled with white supremacists. When they fired the police chief, or when the mayor fired the police chief, the Ku Klux Klan, just like the Ku Klux Klan that's in Maysville, they're born and bred in Dry Ridge. Now they're going to Maysville to do demonstrations. So this hate is just going on, and it's not just Maysville or Dry Ridge, but it's Louisville too. So for people to kind of make Louisville as if it's like outside of Kentucky, Louisville is very much enveloped in Kentucky. There, I don't see much difference between, it's just a bigger city with more people, but you still got your good old boys, you still got your cliques, you still got your corruption and your rapist jailers and your, basically fascist type of environment. That's there, and plus it's, laid back. People are decent. The citizens are decent to each other, but the ruling establishment is corrupt. It's corrupt as fuck, and big shocker on that one. So that's that's a bit of the some updates there. Tomorrow, Jeff Young has a lawsuit in Franklin County. He is suing Jack Conway and 4 other Democrats because they had a unity conference. The Democratic Party, in their own bylaws, says that they're not allowed to pick any candidates and they can't endorse any candidates. But they did the exact same thing last year, which kind of pushed Ed Marksberry out. And so the Democrats aren't even listening to their own rules, and it implies that they don't, adhere to the rule of law. And also, it doesn't, that's not a party that invites, more people into it. What would be the chance? To be honest with you, I would feel like if Jack Conway was to have several debates with Jeff Young, I don't think it would damage Jack Conway in the least. I think he still has a good, strong showing, but he would also show that he's willing to engage in dialogue with progressive members of Kentucky. We don't have very many progressive members, and you're going to go and work on demonizing the progressives. So if all the Democrats care about is demonizing progressives, then that means they're Republicans. They've always been Mitch McConnell Republicans, and, the progressives just make them look, like the fools they are, so they don't want to actually engage with any conversations with a true progressive, which is, he voted for the Bush tax cuts, so you would think that Democrats would even care about the poor. He voted in favor of the Patriot Act, and he's for the escalation of the war on drugs, and then there's the Bush tax cuts, right? And so, those are just horrible policies. I think they're progressive because it progresses into the future, but for some reason, more fascism, more harsher draconian sentences instead of love and compassion. There was alcohol, and then there's pills, and then there's meth, and then there's heroin. So what's the next drug, of choice? What is the next drug of choice? It's going to be something else that's cheaply made, and it's just, it's not going to be they're going to make something else. There's going to be a brand new drug that just hits the streets, and then there'll be a big epidemic, and then we'll have to pass a bunch of laws, and we'll be, spending all of our time and resources to sit there and, go after this thing, when if we were to use the same amount of resources to go after poverty, would have already been eradicated. We got nearly 1 million people who's in poverty. We have nearly 1 million people who's on public health care, and they're talking about, all the Republicans are talking about, kicking everybody off the health care. They're also talking about destroying the union. So this is a, attack on the middle class. This is an attack on working class peoples. And they have death panels. They're going to institute death panels. Who gets to live? Who gets to die? Who gets health care? Who doesn't get health care? And to assume that that's not criminal, I mean, to sit there, if I was to beat the crap out of somebody who was drinking a beer, I would feel bad. I would feel bad as a person because I got a conscience. But there's some people that will beat the crap out of somebody for drinking a beer privately, at a bar, or in their own homes, and not feel bad about it. Put them in, jail and get them, raped, and then they go before the judge. Judge laughs at them, assumes that they're guilty, and then gives them 5 years in prison. You're the asshole. You just fucked over a guy's life for just what? Drinking a beer? Fuck you. You're the asshole. You're the criminal. And so I think it's criminal. The war on drugs is absolutely criminal. Every alternative has succeeded, and every instance of the war on drugs has completely failed. It has not succeeded. You might have got less meth arrest, but they're getting into heroin, or they're overdosing. And you're sitting there telling me that if you would have arrested somebody for overdosing, you're criminalizing addiction. If they didn't overdose, they would have had handcuffs put on them, and then they would have been put in jail. Do you think that's a good path for their life? And let's be honest, you don't give a shit for their life. You don't care. And I think that's a damn shame. The Southern hospitality, we're supposed to love your neighbor, the Christian ethic of do it unto others as you have them do unto yourself. And there's just where is the Southern hospitality? Where is it at? We're supposed to care about our neighbors. We're supposed to love each other. And, we're supposed to be our own person, and there is personal responsibility, but there's also society. We need a synthesis of both of them. A social capitalist system, a system where you have to go get a job in order to support yourself, but also we have the roads, and we have salt trucks, and we got education, and we got health care, and we got the court system, and, there is a lot of bloatedness in the government. You want to talk about something that's really bloated? Let's just talk about the positions of the governor. The governor has so many departments, so many cabinets, so many positions and appointments and jobs and state workers. So the Republicans, they're going to cut all these state workers, right? They want to try to make a leaner, cleaner government. And in some respects, I agree with them. If the department, why do we have 20 departments? I've been in Kentucky in my entire life, and I don't even know about these 20 departments. What do they do? Are they doing something for us or for the people? Are they offering different services? How come there hasn't been an educational outreach program about what it is that they do and what it is that they don't do? And so if we do have a new governor, if Jack Conway doesn't get in, you're going to see a lot of slashing and burning. You're going to see lots of people get their jobs cut. And I think some of that would be good and some of that would be bad. If they're cutting environmental services and healthcare services, I think that's bad. But if they go, cutting some of I saw the other day, I was just driving through Raineyville, and there's probably about 10 jailers just sitting around at a ballpark watching one guy pick up trash. You need 10 jailers to watch one guy pick up trash. We got 41 jailers who do not have jails. We have 41 jailless jailers. Well, those are unnecessary positions, so there's a lot of waste that could be cut out. So if you cut the fascism out and you cut, the Nazi militarism, you cut that out. I think those are good things to cut out. But the environmental, the healthcare, the roads, the schools, we should not touch K through 12 spending. We shouldn't touch college spending. And we shouldn't touch Medicaid. There are programs and they're working. They say that there's not going to be any money in the budget. There's a pension crisis. Let's just make some money, okay? Instead of raising taxes, let's institute businesses. You can buy Humana, KFC, and you get all the profits off of that. Buy 10 gas stations, and you get the profits off of it, and you also force the other gas stations to keep gas at a certain level. Sweden's trash to electric program, which is just a genius idea anyways. There's no downfalls to this idea. The trash to electric program would create jobs as well as just being, a way to get rid of our trash too. Sweden actually, the trash to electricity program is so successful, they've ran out of trash and they're having to buy their trash from Norway in order to keep this trash to electricity program going. So that's amazing. That's incredible. These are just some common sense ideas. It's all about the economics. It's all about shocking. The Republicans are going to shock the economy. And the way they're going to shock it is by dividing it up, taking all the raw materials and resources, and then using us as cheap labor. And I think that we're better than that. As Kentuckians, we have a certain pride of ourselves and a certain gung-ho spirit. And so that gung-ho spirit, that independent spirit, we could create our own businesses. We could set up our own things and entrepreneurs. So I think there's lots of things there. You should have financial services, legal services. That's for the public. The public pretenders, the public advocacy program. These are absolute fake programs, just like the Needle Exchange and the Good Samaritan thing. They're just absolute bullshit. You know that those aren't actually going to be utilized. There's nobody that's on the street that watches Frankfurt and says, "Ooh, wow, that's a good idea." If somebody, overdoses, and I'll just call and then I'll get it. No, that isn't what's going to happen. If your friend overdoses and you call the ambulance to get them some help, they will lock you up and they won't even think twice about it. And then they'll say that they're doing something good. So before I get to the positions of the governor, which is a little heady, but I think it's worth talking about, I'm going to read this poem about the Second Coming. This is W.B. Yeats, an Irish poet in 1919, and he wrote this poem here. The Second Coming. Turning and turning in the widening gyre. The falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart the sinner cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The blood dim tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. Surely some revelation is at hand. Surely the second coming is at hand. The second coming hardly are those words out when a vast image out of Spiritus Mundi troubles my sight. Somewhere in sands of the desert, a shape with lion body and the head of a man, a gaze blank and pitiless as the sun is moving its slow thighs, while all about it real shadows of the indignant desert birds. The darkness drops again, but now I know that 20 centuries of stony sleep were vexed to nightmare by a rocking cradle, when what rough beast, its hour come at last, slouches toward Bethlehem to be born. And I think it's something about like an old man looking back and wishing something was better. I don't know, the falcon can't hear the falconer, things fall apart, the sinner cannot hold, mere anarchy is loosed upon the world, the blood-dimmed tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned, the best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. Something about the second coming. I guess we could talk about the meaning of this, but I like the poem. It was in Nixon. You have Oliver Stone's Nixon, and it was amazing. Actually, it almost seems like Nixon had made a deal with J. Edgar Hoover in order to get all the civil rights activists shot and murdered, and the Kennedys shot, and then that's what caused Nixon to become president, because he says, this isn't who we are as a country. We need some law and order, and this protesting and all these people dying has got to stop. We need law and order. And then he got swept up in there. So assassinations, unfortunately, worked, and who killed them, nobody knows. But, we do know that J. Edgar Hoover was tapping the phones of all these people, and that he's stuck in there. J. Edgar Hoover survived as the head of the FBI through many different presidencies. So that was a good poem, I think, that was in that movie. So, the governor of Kentucky. What is the power of the governor of Kentucky? They got a lot of power. The power the governor has, they control the state police, they control the National Guard, they control the military, they're the commander-in-chief. So if there is some reason to declare martial law, if Tennessee got a bug up their ass and just invaded Kentucky, then that would be, something to declare martial law. If there's lots of riots, there's a lot of KKK sort of hangings and, sort of extrajudicial renderings, extra, kind of things that weren't going through the legal system that the state could go ahead and intervene on. The state has a monopoly on the violence. And so the governor would be in charge of all those people that have guns and bullets and they go around beating people up. And if you blindly just endorse every single thing that police officers do, I don't want you to be my governor. I want a person who understands that power corrupts absolutely, and absolute power corrupts, even more absolutely. So the point being is, if you're in a position of power, that doesn't mean that you're immune from making mistakes. And if you hurt somebody, that's just if you make a mistake. If you actually are, if the abuse is systemic, if there is assaulting and abuse and raping, that I personally have seen in Louisville, that just goes on without anybody saying the word, saying anything about it, then that's absolutely ridiculous. That's something that needs to be, that needs to change. And so you need a good person that walks in there that doesn't, it's not being anti-police or pro-police, it's being pro-good people and anti-bad. If you go around criminalizing, hurting, victimizing, assaulting people, you're a bad person. If you go there and you de-escalate situations like, Andy Griffith, and you make things better, then you're a good person. So that's why I would be a kick-ass lieutenant governor. And I don't know of anybody else who's even talking about accountability for the police. The police are absolutely out of control. And whenever there is a shooting of Leon Brackens or Samantha Ramsey, how come you don't hear any of the so-called good police doing anything about it? Is there such thing as good police? Is there such a thing? I mean, you just saw a person murder somebody. You don't think murder's a crime? Then what the fuck is a crime if murder is not a crime? So that's something that the governor is in charge of. All the guns in Kentucky. They have to give a State of the Commonwealth address. They're the ones that, they could call a special session. They also have a line item veto. So when it comes to the budget, once the legislature passes a budget, the governor can just line by line cross out all that he doesn't want spent in the budget. So if he doesn't want a department being funded, he could just knock it off. So that gives, the future governor lots of power to basically just destroy and cut and slash and burn every single department, every single social program out there. So since this Republican class war invasion is coming, if there were any social programs that you liked, the Women's Crisis Center, Planned Parenthood. I like these social programs, and I like to see them continue. I think one's federal, but the Women's Crisis Center, they give me some really good advice. They show me the power wheels. And they also, told me that, anybody can be abusive and abuse their power. It doesn't just mean a man. But it gave me a good perspective because they showed me what equality looked like, and they showed me what power and domination looked like. Now let's get to, you also have appointments. You have appointments to the many state commissioners and department heads, a mayor. There needs to be a mayor appointed that would be going to the governor. The governor also has the power to pardon. Except for cases of impeachment or treason. So he could pardon, everybody. There's 1/4 of everybody locked up right now is in there for drug charges, and especially marijuana charges. You could pardon them and then let them live their lives. So the other duties that they have is, a lot of duties when it comes to picking the appointments, okay? So what are the departments? I got 4 minutes and I'm going to finish it up, okay? So when you look at this map, it's off the Ballotpedia, Kentucky State Exec Organization chart. I've seen this many times, but you got the governor of Kentucky, and then right under that, the secretary of cabinet. The lieutenant governor's off to the side. It's a sinecure position. It's mostly irrelevant, but the governor's got so much power. So the secretary of cabinet is right underneath the governor. The secretary of cabinet is kind of like the main sort of manager who manages all the stuff. He's the face, and then that guy's the manager. Like your I was thinking the presidential thing. It was your the chief of staff. So your chief of staff is just the person who is over the staff. But the governor is over the chief of staff. The chief of staff in Kentucky is called the secretary of the cabinet. Okay, so, and what does the secretary of the cabinet, what do they cover? Well, there's lots of cabinet positions, okay? Let's just roll through each one of these. You got the public protection cabinet. You got the energy and environment cabinet, the labor cabinet. The labor cabinet, what the fuck are y'all doing? The labor cabinet, that's going to be the first thing the Republicans, Matt Bevin, James Comer, is going to slash and burn the labor cabinet. Where's the new unions? We need a new union movement, and the unions, that are in existence today, we need to strengthen them and then give everybody an opportunity to join a union by passing the Kentucky Free Choice Act, the Free Employee Choice Act. So, FCA for Kentucky. The labor cabinet, personal cabinet, personnel cabinet, energy environment cabinet, public protection cabinet, labor cabinet, justice and public safety cabinet, cabinet for health and family services, education and workforce development cabinet, tourism, arts and heritage cabinet, finance and administration cabinet, transportation cabinet, general government cabinet, and economic development cabinet. Those are all the cabinets. That's the general government cabinet, the economic development cabinet, the transportation cabinet, the finance and administration cabinet, the tourism, arts and heritage cabinet, the education and workforce development cabinet, cabinet for health and family services, justice and public safety cabinet, personnel cabinet, labor cabinet, and energy environment cabinet, and public protection cabinet. That's 12 different cabinets, 12 different agencies that the governor gets to choose who's the director of each one of them, and then they get to hire a whole slew of people. So there's even more people that's underneath each one of these. So I was kind of curious about public protection cabinet, but let's just go with the general government cabinet. You got the National Guard, Governor Office of Minority Employment, Office of Faith-Based and Community Nonprofit Social Services, Department for Local Government, Early Childhood Advisory Council, Human Rights Commission, Real Estates Committee, Commission on Women, Department of Agriculture, Attorney General, Auditor of Public Accounts, Secretary of State, State Treasurer, Unified Prosecutorial System, Registry of Election Finance, Department of Veteran Affairs, Military Affairs Commission, Kentucky Infrastructure Authority, Agricultural Development Board, Office of Homeland Security, Department of Military Affairs. That's all under the General Government Cabinet. Then that's just one cabinet, one of 12. Okay, 1 of 12. Public Protection Cabinet, you got the Board of Claims and Crime Victims, Kentucky Board of Tax Appeals, Kentucky Horse Racing Commission, Office of the Executive Director, Office of the Secretary, Office of Communication Public Outreach, Office of Legal Services, Department of Insurance, Office of Occupation, Professions, lots of departments, lots of cabinets, and I haven't heard about any of them. They haven't done shit